It's been around for 100 years. It's popular for a reason, but leveraging new technology to put into your course and really make a splash with it. Hi, I'm Russ.
And I'm Danny.
And this is the Memory Makers Podcast.
The show focused on helping you create amazing customer experiences and make more memories.
Memory Makers Podcast. That's an oldie but a goodie. I don't know if we have enough jingles to bring back a reused one yet, but I couldn't resist.
Well, I think 43 episodes in, it's probably okay to reuse one every once in a while.
Yeah, if you guys go back and find that one where that one was in, mention me on social media, and Mike will have to tell me that you did it, and I'll get you a little prize or something because I am not on social media enough to be able to do
Don't
that.
mention Russ. Just mention Creative Works. Russ will never see it.
What's up, brother?
I was just thinking before we hopped on that it's really cool. This happens every once in a while with different attractions in the kind of entertainment industry when one particular video clip will go viral. And we've seen it happen before, and it just recently happened actually with Valo Arena. Someone had posted kind of the gameplay footage on Twitter, and it got over 21 million views already, which is super cool. Ooh. And it just goes to show how so much of the things that we experience in the entertainment industry and the way that these attractions are built to be immersive and memorable and visual just lends itself to be able to go viral in a really interesting way. So that's just really cool. I've been thinking about that.
21 million, is that good? I don't know. You tell me.
Yes, Russ, that is good.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's a really neat experience, and especially when you then get to see, like you mentioned, just people connecting at an emotional, basic level of ooh and ah and fun. Like, that's awesome. So, dig it. Well, let's talk a little bit about how we can do that with mini golf today. So, I wanted to we try to have a blend of different topics and ideas. We have some operators that come in and share their thoughts. We have some philosophical business teachings and things like that Danny and I get to nerd out on. And we also want to make sure we're looking at tactical and applicable, pieces around different attractions and things too. And so we realized we hadn't done a mini golf one. And so I wanted to put together an episode for today of how mini golf doesn't mean mini revenue and what a resurgence it's had, especially over the last 6 years, of really becoming a much more popular add-on attraction, just for a number of reasons that we'll get into. But Danny, what do you say we jump on in here and talk a little bit about some mini golf, and I'll let you take it off with design.
Yeah. So what ends up happening, this has happened for a long time and still happens today, is when people think about mini golf, they think about traditional golf as well. And so they think in terms of 9-hole increments. Whereas, if I have mini golf, I have to have 9 holes or I have to have 18 holes. And I understand why people think that way, because that's so common in traditional golf. But the fact of the matter is that you don't have to have increments of 9 and 18. If you've got a space, and part of what makes mini golf great is that it can fit into kind of some funky or odd shaped spaces in your building, and help with kind of flowing an attraction through that space. You could do 6 holes or 8 holes or 11 holes or 12 holes. There's no rule about I have to have 9. And so I think helping to kind of break the myth of 9 or 18 is really helpful. And we'll talk about in a little bit about why that can help with guest flow and some of the things that you can do about breaking out courses. But when it comes to odd spaces in your facility, mini golf is a great way to help fill those spaces. And it also acts as a really great way when people come into your venue. Typically, indoor blacklight mini golf is what we're talking about here. Indoor blacklight mini golf is usually not going to be an anchor attraction that people are going to your facility for that attraction. It might be something like bowling, or it might be something like laser tag that is your anchor. But what mini golf is really, really great at is allowing your guests an opportunity to play another attraction while they're waiting on that anchor attraction. If you've got a wait time for bowling lanes, or they're waiting for their game for laser tag, or a wait time for go-karts, whatever's your main piece, it's a great way to help the guest fill that time. And it's also a very inclusive attraction, right? Where something like, mini golf is very similar to bowling in this regard. Bowling is really inclusive, where anyone from 5 to 95 can participate. The same thing happens with indoor mini golf. Anyone from 5 to 95 can participate and have fun. And it's a really great full family unit experience that, kids and parents and grandparents can all play together.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's still just as relevant for date night as it is for, the family outing piece. And I think that's why so many folks have really gravitated getting back into it. And it's interesting because it used to be perceived that mini golf was kind of less than outdoor mini golf, because when you do outdoor mini golf, you've got the big landscaping architecture and hills and terrains and things. And so that's why as we've been doing more and more golf over the last 8 years, is now really starting to look at what are some playability pieces that we can put into the experience that gives you some of that higher level satisfaction of an outdoor course, but without having to do all the crazy concrete sculpting and all of that jazz. So the first thing was adding things back in, like contours and ramps and elements. So for a long, long time, even indoor mini golf was something that was relatively flat. You maybe have a small little putt over ramp or something like that you would have, and it was really viewed more as, hey, this is a capacity piece, and we've got this here, and it's just to help with certain elements, but not a lot of dynamic play was available because it's indoor, and trying to do kind of crazy things was a little prohibitive. And what we've been really focused on is how do we create some of that more dynamic play. And so now we add in sloped contours and ramps and hills and things throughout the course, so that way at least every other hole you've got something where the ball is moving up and down and doing some bigger play, which is really, really fun. But then it's still something where we've had clients wanting to get concrete, pour it in and do these custom slopes and ramps. Well, you can only do that if you own your building. Your landlord isn't going to really, be down for a ton of concrete work that they can't repurpose in some other future way. And so now, by being able to have more modular components in the deliverables that we do that can blend in, it's so much easier now to all of a sudden start actually having more ups and downs and things like that go into it. The other thing is leveraging the fact that you are in indoor mini golf and you have available power and networking opportunities to create more excitement than you would in an outdoor environment and give a really dense experience. And so through things like projection mapping, where you can actually have a projector throwing digital content that's blended into your mural work. So if you're underwater in Atlantis, you're seeing sea creatures and different pieces kind of swimming by. That visual movement adds a ton of texture to the experience. Or even blending it into the final hole. I think of Blacklight rainforest mini golf that we did down in Florida, where the final hole was this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. That's not the proper name for it, Mike. I apologize. It had a very long name. But of that family of the big dinosaurs, where it's this huge head, but then on either side, we've got projection map scenes that are tied into the holes themselves. So that way, if you make that hole in one, you're getting one triggered scene. If you don't make the hole in one, you get that huge meteor shower where it's the end of days for the dinosaurs. So you get to have a little bit more personality come through the course in a way that it hasn't in the past typically. And so that's a huge opportunity. And the bonus point for all of this is by having more dynamic gameplay and having more, kind of diverse content, not just mural work and props in the space, you're able to justify a much higher price point than anybody else in your market that's doing it. And so, when we look at IAPA benchmark surveys and studies, when you're saying, okay, on average, 75 cents per hole per person is what's being charged. Well, now all of a sudden, if I have a smaller boutique-sized course, I can charge as much, if not more, than what I would for a traditional 9 holes, by the fact that I'm providing a higher fidelity experience. And it also keeps this race from the bottom of, if there already is mini golf in there, and sometimes you'll see stuff where it's, oh my gosh, they're charging, $6 or $7 for a full 18 holes and yada, yada, yada. Well, that's great, but are they doing anything anywhere near what you would be able to provide in an experience? And so think of it of playing kind of checkers versus chess. Like you can always justify a higher price point if there's meat on the bone, and looking to create those opportunities with it.
So one of the things that is related to what you're talking about with that experience and the price point that you're going to charge is, let's talk about more about the guest flow. And one of the things that we recommend is that as soon as you get 12 holes or more in a course, is splitting those into 2 separate courses. And there's a couple reasons for this. Number one, it allows for increased capacity, because when you have one course, there's only one starting point and one first hole. And so that is kind of your limiting capacity, is how many people you can get through that first hole in a given hour. But the moment that you split that into 2 courses, you now have 2 starting points, and you've doubled your capacity and what you can do in that given hour. The other thing is that the price point you can charge. So let's say, for example, if you were going to do 12 holes all as one course, and you were going to say, let's charge $10 a person for those 12 holes. Well, if you split it into 2 courses, that doesn't mean that you're going to charge $5 for those 6 holes. You can actually charge more than that, probably something like $7 for the 6 holes. So instead of saying I'm going to charge $10 for an entire 12-hole experience, you can now say, well, it's going to be 7 per, so it's going to be 14 for the entire experience. It allows you to charge more, and then it gives you an upsell opportunity, because let's say there's a guest and they say, well, I want to do this one 6-hole course over here, and they play it and they get finished with it and they loved the experience. It's a lot easier to upsell them to add and play the other course than it is to try to get them to replay the course that they just did. And so it allows you some flexibility there in the way that you're going to engage your guests and be able to have more payments coming through and upsells to be able to get them to come back again in that moment, or again in a future visit. Some of the other things that you can do from a guest flow standpoint are, within the course itself, what we like to do is set up kind of false walls that appear throughout the course. And so what that does is, when you start at hole 1, let's say, for example, it's a 10-hole course or a 9-hole course. When you start at hole 1, you don't see the entire 9 holes all at once. We strategically set up walls to kind of tell the story as you're going through the experience, and also gives you surprises as you turn each corner. It's like, oh, look, there's a giant elephant over here. Oh, look, here's a huge dinosaur head, or whatever that may be. And it allows you to kind of keep some interesting, what's going to be around the next corner, I don't know, and some surprise elements within there. And we really like doing that, so it doesn't kind of give the whole thing away all at once. And then the last thing, that not everyone's going to do this, but for some it might make sense. We did this recently, a couple of years ago. We did an installation for Grand Station Entertainment in College Station, Texas, and they had an existing mini golf that we came in and kind of reimagined and rebuilt for them. But one of the things that they did is, instead of saying, well, I'm going to put my mini golf behind 4 walls and have like this entryway with this theming that brings you into the experience, which works, and a lot of people do that, they had a half wall surrounding 3 of the 4 sides of their course, instead of having full walls. And what that meant is that any guest walking through their facility and walking by that mini golf experience got to see the course, or at least a portion of the course, and people playing it. And it gets them engaged in the experience, and it allows them to go, oh, that's really neat. Look at those kids having fun. I want to go pay for mini golf too. And so it's just a different way to think about the layout and the format of how mini golf is put into a facility.
Yeah, I love that opportunity to show people having fun, and creating an inherent upsell opportunity from that, as well as the social media presence that you can get from that as people are taking pictures and playing, and it's just definitely anytime that we can bring those closed door attractions out, it's such a huge opportunity. And, with the rest of their area being a white light facility, but being able to somewhat close this off and have some really powerful black lights and that open concept, we were really able to have our cake and eat it too. And we did a similar thing with John's Incredible Pizza a few years back. Like, it's just awesome to have more of that density as folks are walking in and they're seeing all of the great things, like seeing the arcade, seeing the food and beverage, seeing the bowling lanes, all of that stuff. Like, why not with your mini golf as well? Because it again gets people in a position of, ooh, I want to do that. And so it really helps drive more of that revenue from a selling opportunity. Let's jump into some of that secret sauce that we always talk about. It's staffing, right? Of not buying a sports car and only delivering pizzas with it. We want to make sure that we're driving this thing to the fullest of its abilities. And so much of that comes back down to what your staff is doing to help create memories through these attractions. So there's two things that I always think about when we need to be conscious of where and how we're allocating labor. It's a huge operating expense for everybody's, day-to-day piece. But this is really an opportunity, and you don't have to overspend on staffing. You can really have a great 1-2 punch of monitoring and protecting your investment so that the life of the course lasts longer, as well as being able to create a great customer touch point and a little bit more white glove service as your guests are in your facility and you're doing something more than what others are. So when I talk about protecting your investment, we all know that, guests make interesting choices sometimes in our facilities where they're going to be a little bit rougher. They're going to be a little bit more adventurous, let's say, if we're putting it nicely, with these courses, because sometimes you're taking a putter and you're giving it to an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old who's maybe really anxious to show off for their friends and be, a little rowdy. And so they can turn that putter into a baseball bat real quick. And so by having somebody there that's in the attraction space, especially if it's behind a closed wall, you're helping to ensure that those kinds of bad decisions are going to be much more infrequent, because if people are being, supervised and engaged, they're not going to be left to their own devices and start looking for additional forms of entertainment within the golf experience. So it definitely helps just keep that wear and tear down from rambunctious players. And then from the guest engagement side, this to me is the secret sauce of connecting and providing a memorable experience through the attraction itself. The first thing that I always, talk with folks about is, hey, as that staff member who's monitoring for good gameplay, and again, this is where all of a sudden I just need one body, I don't need three, but one body walking through there, monitoring guest play, coming up and being able to, challenge the guests to trick shots that they can do, right? And having a little spinner wheel, where it's anything, goofy shots of, hey, putt with your eyes closed backwards through your legs, or stand on one foot and hold your right arm out and, do a one-handed putt. Like, there's all of those things. It's designed to get them, being a little bit silly and having a good time. So that's one aspect of it. But then take some of those 5-ticket redemption items, some of the glow-in-the-dark rope wristbands or the slap wrist bracelets or some of the green army men, and have some of those very low cost, penny a piece kind of items that then you can give to folks for being adventurous and trying those trick shots, to see a mom's face light up when their kid gets a redemption prize for doing nothing other than playing the experience in a fun way with your staff is a huge opportunity to just, again, provide more of a white glove level of service that the guests feel, that there's intentionality and purpose behind the staff there and why they'd be willing to come back and spend more money with you in the future. It's such a great reinforcer. The other thing that I love to have folks do is take a page out of the roller skating rink industry or others where you're putting a DJ, in that space. It's not something that takes up a big amount. You can have a little raised observation platform where that staff member can, keep eyes on the course, and then they can be playing some music. You can tailor that to group events and have playlists and things like that that are getting put in there. But that way they're creating a little bit more of a vibe and an environment, and then they're able to walk around and meet and mingle with the guests and get them to do the fun trick shots and things. So one staff member can serve 3 different roles of monitoring, guest engagement with the with the spinner shot wheel, as well as even cultivating some music. It's a huge thing that you can do, or huge impact rather that you can have for a very minimal, it's got a low point of entry to be able to make a big difference. And so I love that when we look at staffing for these things.
The last thing that we wanted to hit on is really talking about kind of the upkeep and the maintenance of mini golf. Russ, you had mentioned just a little bit ago of the importance of having a staff member, because regardless of how durable any prop is, if you just let kids run wild and smash stuff with a putter, it's going to break, right? So we need to be conscious about that. But even outside of the operations themselves, it's the opening and closing checklist things are some of the pieces that we want to think about, of making sure that, one, everything's working properly, and two, the experience is the level that you would expect it to be every day, day in and day out. So one of the things that you really want to do on a regular basis at the beginning and end of each day is walk the entire course and have your staff member test each hole. Make sure, hey, if I've got these putt throughs, that the ball can go through the putt through. You didn't have a kid shove like a water bottle in there that's blocking it or something like that. Making sure that every one of those holes flows and every piece does the thing that it's supposed to do. Every projection mapping piece triggers all those different things to make sure that they're operating properly. And then some other items that we recommend just as good checklist things to keep in mind. This is not a full list, but just a couple items that you want to keep in mind. One, vacuuming that carpet regularly, just to make sure that it's clean and looks nice from that experience. You probably 1 to 2 times a year want to do a deeper steam cleaning on that carpet beyond just the vacuuming itself, to make sure that you've got that really clean as well. You want to look for loose snags or unraveling of the carpet at seams. Sometimes over time, especially if you have a course that's been there for 4, 5, 6 years, there's an increased likelihood of maybe every once in a while one of those seams having a little ravel come out. Cut that, or use some heat to make sure you cauterize the end of that, whatever makes sense for you. And then also all the props and the barriers and the walls, wiping them down on a regular basis to make sure you don't have a ton of dust buildup that occurs on those pieces. Just a couple good things to keep in mind. Again, this is not an exhaustive list of all the things that you want to do to maintain a mini golf, but just some good best practices for you to keep in mind.
Big time. I think that's a great spot for us to wrap up and give you guys a couple of parting thoughts. Really look for where you can be intentional with this experience. And again, staffing this with a single staff member goes a huge long way. Having those basic checklists each day, so that way you're keeping the longevity up. But looking for ways that, mini golf can be new and exciting for your guests. It's been around for 100 years. It's popular for a reason. But leveraging new technology to put into your course and really make a splash with it. So with that, we're going to wrap it up here. We've got more awesome content coming your guys' way through the weekly episodes. I'm really excited for the next lineup of guest operator interviews that we're going to be doing on here. And so be sure to come back and pick up some valuable insights from them. And we'll also start inviting some more new topics and things that you guys want to have covered. Let us know, and we'll be bringing that on as we get them from you.
If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
And always appreciate that 5 stars, please and thanks.
If you got ideas for the future episodes, whether it's a topic or a guest, follow us on social media, send us a DM.
And as always, big shout out to Mikey Mike on the 1s and 2s, working the Ultranet for us, and we will catch you on the next one, troublemakers. Sorry. I thought you were still testing it.
And
I was just lost in Danny's eyes is what that was.
These little peepers. These little things.
These little things. What is that Andy Bernard quote? He's like, I saw on your computer you and Pam are thinking of buying a house. I've got the peepers of an eagle. All right. I'm ready now. Mike, I apologize.